What is up today, guys? Welcome to this week's animation workshop video, and yeah, I've made some progress since we last spoke. So my orange guy, he still does his little jump. I haven't made any progress on him, but I have been working on my green guy, and it's not super interesting, so I didn't record it or anything, but I'm here to tell you about it real quick. So what it is, let's go into a perspective view. So my green guy, pretty much, camera's gonna start back here behind him, where the only light source are these green bars. They're gonna just glow, and then he's gonna take a deep breath and walk through the room. So it's just, things are still blocked out, deep breath, and then he starts walking in. Very jagged walk, I must say. I only spent a couple minutes on it, don't worry. It'll all get smoothed out. But we've got a simple blocked walk right there. So he's walking, and then I'm gonna do a thing where it's like, his foot kind of just banks on its heel and pivots a little bit. That'll be further blocked out later. So he's walking the room, and that's where I'm at. Show you again my orange guy, door opens, and he jumps through. So my guys are almost ready to fight. Now here's what I'm gonna get to today in this video. I'm gonna show you the best way, in my opinion anyway, what am I don't know, I'm Jacob, of how to hold a weapon or how to catch something. And it'll give you the most freedom in terms of your animation. Like, you change your mind, whatever. So I want my green guy to wield this sword I modeled almost a year ago. We need to kind of clean up the weapon first, clean up the object. This part isn't super necessary, but it's what I like to do. It's what I prefer to work with. So we're gonna clean it up. You can see we've got all this history. We've got all these translations and everything on the sword. We don't want that. I'm gonna go modify. I'm gonna go freeze transforms, get rid of all that. Modify center pivot on just this. So now it's right in the middle of the blade itself. That's what we want. And then I'm gonna go to edit, delete by type, history. And now this is a very clean piece of geometry in terms of what I'm looking for right now. So I'm gonna do the same thing with the handle here. It's got all the junk, so I'll go modify, freeze transforms. I'm gonna go modify center pivot, and then edit, delete by type, history. Now my group here, I'm also going to modify, freeze transforms, modify center the pivot, and edit, delete by type, history. Okay, now my sword, handle, and blade, all good. We're gonna save. The shader that I want for this sword is going to be the same shader I use for my T2. It's like that green glass looking thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and file, import, objects, T2, bringing in the whole dinosaur just to get the shader. So dinosaur's in, I'm gonna delete them. I had my hyper shade on the screen, so now we can see we have a sword. I'll call it sword glass. Okay, now this is the sword I want. So let's break it down real quick. I've got my green sword, it's got the green glass on it. The blade is all zeroed out, has no history, it's centered and all that. Same for the handle, and so is the group, it's all good. So I'm gonna go create NURBS primitives. I'll just do a circle, shrink it down some. Okay, now I'm gonna rename my circle. I'll call it sword icon. So I've got my sword icon, modify, freeze transforms, center pivot, and edit, delete by type, history. We're going to take our sword group, middle mouse drag it onto the icon. And now when we click on the icon, it moves the whole thing around. So we can rotate it. But wait, there's more. But we're going to go ahead and grab our blade here, go to the attributes, object display, drawing overrides, enable overrides, reference. Now that means we cannot select the blade, even though we can still select the curve, and we can still play with it. So this just makes the animator's job a little bit easier, where we won't accidentally select the blade and move it and break it and all that good stuff. We're gonna do the same thing with the handle here. So we'll go attributes, object display, drawing overrides, enable overrides, change normal to reference. So now that I've frozen everything, centered all the pivots, deleted all the history on everything here, the only thing I, the animator, can grab is the sword icon, which is perfect for what I need. It's great, honestly. So it's not messy, everything's clean. So awesome. So now I'm gonna go back to my scene. Alright, so now we're gonna run through this real quick. It's super easy, it's a new day, got a new shirt on, and yeah, let's do it. So we've got a sword in the scene. Now a lot of people would like to simply just grab the sword, they'll rotate it, put it in his hand, and hit P to parent. That is not ideal. Let me show you why real quick. So let's get the sword in his hand real quick. Okay, sword's in his hand, something like that. Now let's go ahead and grab the curve for the child, which is the sword, and then the curve for the parent, which is the hand. We'll hit P. Now it looks like we did it right. It looks like it, okay? So see, we grab the hand moves, and the sword comes with it. We can rotate it, the sword comes with it. But what we actually did is tell the hand the sword is now part of you. So instead of the sword being its own object, the hand thinks like you're an extra finger. You're just the finger sword, you know? And like you can move the sword around by itself. You can just drop it on the ground, scoot it off to the side. But like I said, the problem is the hand thinks the sword is part of it. So when your hand moves, the sword comes with it. By doing it this way, you cannot animate your character after putting down the sword. That's bad. Or at least not what I prefer. I like to have some flexibility in my animation. So what I would recommend is the following. So to start off, put your object, your sword, whatever, in the character's hand, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do from there is go create a locator. I had to find it. So then we'll drag the locator, move that to the character's hand. All right, we got the locator right where the hand and the sword meet. I'll go ahead and call this sword left hand. And anytime I want the sword to come back to the left hand, I'll just go ahead and use this, this locator that is. So I'm gonna grab the locator, boom. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab the hand, right? Child, parent, and I'm gonna hit P. So now when we grab the hand, the locator comes with it. So next thing we want to do is look at our driven, right? So the thing that our driver, the hand, will be controlling, which is the object, which is the sword in this case. All of that, pretty much our object. Our object is the driven, and the hand it's in is the driver. Got it. So we're gonna look at our driven, right? Our driven is the sword, and we want to make sure it's in a group all by itself. And thankfully, when I import it into the scene went ahead and just grouped it. So I'm gonna rename this group just sword. Boom, got it. So I'm gonna grab the locator, and then in the outliner, command the sword group. Not the sword object, not the sword curve, not even the blade or the handle, but the group itself. So I went locator, and then the sword group. Now I'm gonna come up here to the animation tab, go constrained, parent constrained. Now, watch this. Now we can move the hand, the sword comes with it. We can move the sword, and it can still move by itself. Awesome. And the hand will even rotate with the sword in it, and all is good. But you might be thinking, well, how is this any different than before? Now, with this locator system that we have here in the constraints, we have the ability to put the sword down and continue to animate our character. Now let me show you how that works. So if we look at the scene here, we haven't changed anything about the constraint. You know what, let me go ahead and take my green guy and put him all in auto. Right now he's in step, but you know, I just won't save this. Okay, so if we look at him in auto, the sword is moving with his hand. That's exactly what we want. But let's just say at some point we want him to drop the sword, right? So let's say around, I don't know, frame 60, he's gonna drop the sword and it's just gonna fall to the ground, right? Okay, so how are we gonna go about doing this where he just drops the sword? We just need him to let go. So what we're gonna do, we're going to grab our object, right? So we want frame 60 to be the last frame that he's holding the sword, and then frame 61 to be where the sword starts to fall. So I'm going to go ahead and set a key on the last frame that he's holding it. And that's by grabbing the sword curve itself. So then I'm going to go to the parent constraint that is underneath the sword group. That was created by doing the whole sword group and locator parent constraint. And you'll see over here on the right side, it says sword L hand W01. So this part of the constraint is like a switch. Flip it on, flip it off. 1 is on, 0 is off. So we can key this, right? We can just right mouse, key, and then right when we want him to not have it, key it off by making it 0. So we'll just come over here, 0. Now we have a situation where he does indeed drop the sword. The sword is able to be moved freely from the hand once the parent constraint is turned off. But we do have the situation where the sword is snapping. So how do we fix that? Well, go to the parent constraint, go to the attribute editor, we'll go to constraint attributes, and then uncheck enable rest position. So from there, as soon as the sword is told to be let go from the hand, it's just gonna stop following the hand. They're no longer connected, and the hand doesn't consider the sword part of it. They now recognize that they are two separate objects. So I've got the sword, I can go a few frames out, and then just let it fall to the ground. And that creates a new key. So I'll go ahead and take this sword, I'll put it in auto just for the funsies of it. And now we can see, he starts out with the sword, he takes his steps, and as soon as we hit frame 60, that's the last frame he's gonna have it, frame 61, it starts to fall because he's letting go of it. It falls down, my guy continues to move, my character continues to be animated while the sword does not follow. So now even while my guy is moving, my sword is free to be transferred to someone else's hand, it's free to just lay on the ground, and it does not affect my guy, and my guy does not affect it. Oh, and I'm gonna tag this on here just for some funsies here. I can also reactivate this parent constraint. Just because I turned it off doesn't mean I can't reuse it. So let's say for funsies, my guy, you know, he finished his walk after he dropped his sword. He's like, oh, I'm done with it, I'll drop it, whatever. So he drops his sword, he goes a few steps, and let's say on frame 78 he wants to pick it up. So on frame 77, I'll go to my parent constraint, key it as 0. I'll go to frame 78, key it as 1. Down here while it's still 0, I'll go and key it in this position where it's still on the ground, and then I'll go to like frame 83. I'll move it back up, back to the hand, right? So we'll key it, and we'll see what that looks like. So I'm gonna go and put it in auto real quick, and then it'll just kind of go back up to his hand. So we're just reactivating that that locator. So with this locator system, we can easily go from him holding it, you know, he walks with it, he just drops it, he's like, okay, I'll finish off my walk, and then I'll just levitate it back up. And then it's back in his hand, and he can slash anyone. So overall, that's what I would recommend if you want to wield objects, wield weapons, or just hold anything. You could probably use it on another rig. If you wanted to have someone grab someone by the throat, you could probably use this locator system on their hand and on like their neck or something, and you know, easily swing someone around like that. So it can be used for a lot of different things, and I think it's just super awesome. Next week we're probably going to be doing some graph smoothing, trying to finish up my green guy's walk and my orange guy's jump, and then maybe just them. We'll get into them actually fighting and some cool dynamic shots, hopefully, whatever that was. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. If you would please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. See you guys later.